Sekhar flew all the way from India to be with us here today. And so Sekhar is a highly experienced enterprise transformation coach with decades of experience guiding organizations and teams in their journeys of agility. He's a certified Scrum trainer, having trained over 30,000 certificates in his career as a Scrum trainer. He's also an expert on agile, lean thinking, and various related strategies and techniques. So again, it's a privilege to have Sekhar with us here today. And we're really looking forward to having a perspective from a different continent, from different places. So thank you, Sekhar, for being with us here today.
Thank you so much. What do you really interpret from this financial thing? What am I really going to talk about? What does financial really represents? Money. So, what is Singapore famous for?
Banks.
Yeah. So you know what happens in banks usually? Yeah. And you know that's what I'm going to talk about. So it's been I trained close to 30,000 people. Yes. Yeah. I think everyone in the back hear me, right? Even if I keep it really far.
Okay, be close to this.
Okay. So you know, banks, I often see there is too much of what I call it as mess, or I call it as the impossibility of simplification. How many of you experience that? Yeah. So it's so hard to simplify things, and the more messier it is, the more people just surround around it, and then you know what happens. Yeah. So me, I'm Sekhar. I was a CEC reviewer, Scrum Line CEC reviewer for almost 9-10 years, and I read so many applications, and one of the biggest challenge in banks is the simplification, and that's what majority of my talk is going to be based out of. So, okay, so what does that you see here? So what does that you see here? But I cannot put the red on this. Okay, yeah. So what does that you really see here? So, you know, the kind of challenges that we see in banks. And you know, most of the time, we apply a lot of complex scaling frameworks in banks. And then instead of scaling agile practices, we scale problems. I still don't get it. Why is that you scale problems instead of scaling agile ways of working, agile practices? And when your problems go bigger, and you know what, this is what happens. There is a small thing where agile is implemented, and then we are agile. Okay, so my way of looking at it is, I call it as fragmented implementation. You just do it in bits and pieces in many organizations, in many teams I've seen across. Just do bits and pieces here, and that agile thing is a tick. You just wanted to tick it, that hey, you know, and we tell the outside world that we are all agile. And in fact, it is more of fragile rather than agile. And many times I see this coming across where the real challenges are often ignored, and it's more of agile lip service. And it is so hard for leaders to unlearn their old ways of working and move into agile ways of working. So, if someone asks me what is easier for me, learning any Scrum unlearning goes for a toss, isn't it? And if you cannot unlearn your old ways of working, even if you learn Scrum or Agile, you cannot implement it. And for me, there is a huge opportunity for coaching in helping people unlearn their old ways of working if they are willing to. But unfortunately, many leaders are not willing to unlearn. I mean, I see the future of Agile. The future of Agile is in its implementation. There are people out there with a lot of knowledge. But the real challenge I see with this, they are not willing to go and implement it. That's why I call coaches as impact maximizers. But most of the time, many coaches, they get into this implementation and then they just are always busy running these daily scrums. There are bigger things for these coaches to make an impact. And okay, my ticker is not working here. Okay, I want the reason. Okay, so what do you think is the biggest challenge in implementing agile ways of working in your team or organization? I want some inputs from some of you. Anything that you experienced? Anything that you come across? Yeah. Mindset is a very broad word. If I go to my senior VP and say that you need to change your mindset, he will throw me out of this window. Yeah, isn't it? Yeah. So, yeah.
Thinking that agile is the only way of working.
Well, that's true. But the focus is on more of agile implementation, not on something else. Yes, there are so many ways of working. Totally agree with you. There are so many ways of working. Yeah, but many people they're led by their own leaders. They are led by their own leaders. They just follow the leader.
I mean, agile gives you a certain mindset.
Okay.
And sometimes you need to get out of that mindset.
Excellent. So for me, I would say agile mindset is one of the most difficult things to adopt. And if I got that mindset, and I'm not going to unlearn it.
Exactly my point.
Yeah, and the reason why I'm not going to unlearn it is it is most relevant to the current digital world. It is one of the most relevant things to the current digital world. Because I've seen that, okay, with ever changing requirements, I want my leaders to meet deadlines. Wow. Forget about Agile or waterfall. With ever changing requirements, can I even stick to a specific deadline? And if a leader wanted to happen, you know what the kind of mess usually happens at the bottom. Isn't it? And I have seen this across many times in many organizations. Yes, you have a question? Sorry. Yeah. Any other challenges? I'll take one more. Yes.
So too much work, people are too busy, so they actually don't have the minds, they don't have the space in their minds to actually take time to process what it needs.
Okay.
Too much work in progress.
Yeah. So most of the time I have a different version of it. Being busy doesn't directly translate into being productive. I can be busy all day watching reels on Instagram. Isn't it? I can be busy all day watching reels on Instagram, but I'm not productive. So many people usually they just portray that, hey, you know what, I'm too busy to implement action. Wow. Okay, so that's why they don't get a lot of value out of their time and effort that they put across. Isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so I just quickly, yeah. So, this is my favorite quadrant. Awareness versus execution. Where do you see yourself, your team, or your project? How many of you see yourself in dangerous? Yes? Yeah. I mean, this is again, I made it. It is one of my signature framework. you are in dangerous. And many people nowadays, they say it is hybrid. How many of you familiar with this word hybrid? Yeah. People find all the lame excuses to learn and implement stuff. Okay, so if you are in dangerous, all the best. Yeah, I can see what is going to happen down the line after a few months or a few years. And I've seen especially organizations who are in dangerous, what they did is after 2 years, we tried it didn't work, let's go back to waterfall. As if waterfall is going to solve all their problems. And this is where many people, one thing is either they don't know it, or I also say that half knowledge is very dangerous also. So you only say that to me Agile is implementing those daily meetings. Wow. And then everything else, the same old way. Okay? And most of the time, what I say is, until yesterday, let's say you are playing cricket match. I know some of you don't know cricket, but so until yesterday you are playing cricket match. From tomorrow onwards, you're asked to play football. And you say that I don't have time to learn the rules of football. You take the rules of cricket and apply it to football. How is this game going to look like? And believe me, this is where many times the chaos and mess, the mess will increase multifold according to me. When you are increasing too much of mess, there has to be someone who has to clean that. And what happens is there is one CIO or a director or a VP who implement Agile. And then let's say he works with the company for 1 year or 2 years or so on. And after that, this guy leaves the company and a new person will join. And then you know what that new person will join? What the new person will do? He reset everything back. That is why, for God's sake, if you are hiring leaders, hire only Agile leaders who know this thought process. Otherwise, everything is going to be back to square one. And most of the organizations I've seen, there is one guy with 25 years of waterfall experience who is going to lead the Agile transformation in the company. And I can see the future of that implementation. I can see the future of Agile implementation of that company. So again, most of the times your people are going to make a huge difference. Hiring right people. And now this isn't working either. Okay, so one case study of the large bank transformation. This bank is also in Singapore. So which I'm not going to reveal the name. Yeah. So yeah, some of this are many organization changes at the top. So most of the time what happens is, one of my favorite phrase, I borrowed it from my colleague, is like, leaders transform first and attract others. In many organizations, if your leaders are not transforming, Agile is only at the bottom of the organization. And I know where they get stuck. Yeah. So that's why, to me, this is one good case study. For example, one of my favorite here is feature teams and leadership involvement. For majority of the leaders, this Agile thing is not even their priority. This Agile thing is not even their priority. And I have seen this again and again. Yes, this is one of those initiatives. But if I ask them, what is the high priority relative to other initiatives you have in the organization? Most of them, they wouldn't even prioritize this on the ground. And where will this go? Okay, so, and this is another case study of one large Dutch bank. And this, I love it, multi-team backlog refinement and joint design sessions. And you know, in banks, people don't want to collaborate. The biggest challenge is a person will write an email all the way to the top, and it keeps on going up, and then it comes down, and eventually nothing will happen. And I've seen this again and again. Escalating is a new way of working for many people. How many times you have seen people escalating and nothing happens? Yeah. Who is going to read your chain of emails? And that's why I often say that email is the poorest form of communication. So I've seen this again and again. People are busy writing emails for at least 1/4 of their working time. Because they think that their job, if they write emails, their problem is gone. So I call it as throw it over the window. Okay, throw it over the window. What does that mean? They just push it to them and say that it's not my problem, it's somebody else's problem, isn't it? Okay, so now on to the next slide. Oops. Okay, is this the same one? Okay, yeah. This is another fintech company. I think nowadays we know fintechs, right? What are fintechs famous for? Only taking venture capital money?
Running away with that.
Okay, what else? What does fintechs famous for?
Innovation.
I like it. And you know, I have never seen people innovating with old ways of working. People are busy firefighting day in, day out. The biggest challenge I see is people cannot think outside the box. I was talking to Kent Beck the other day, who was coaching at Facebook. And they say that at any point of time, Facebook is not going to have less than 100 ideas and experiments to experiment. When you are not doing rapid experimentation, when you are not innovating, you don't see a business impact. Because most of the time, the business impact is going to happen based on how much you are willing to experiment and fail. And many leaders, they don't want to experiment, they just deliver. So, I usually say this. For how many of you can connect to it? The operation was successful, the surgery was successful, but the patient died. So the surgery was successful, but the patient died. And we developed products very hard for 6 months, 1 year. We do all the hard work. And then, at the end of all the hard work, when they show the product, they say that, hey, this is not what I'm looking for. I want something else. I've seen millions of dollars wasted on building stuff which people don't want it. Okay, so why is it important to break traditions? Again, a lot of this you might have seen it. But the summary of all this is to make a business impact. We don't want to implement Agile just for sake of it. We want businesses to thrive in the midst of uncertainty. And that's precisely what it is. Okay, so again, I have told a lot on leadership, again, customer focus. I've seen many people, they make internal processes that go against the customer. Too many processes in your organization. Process over customer experience is something that I'm always seeing. This is not not going to take you very far. I have an approval process in my organization that delays a customer value delivery by 1 month. And I've seen this many times. No, customers don't care about your internal processes. And then again, lot of implement innovation and experimentation was missing. And then finally, leadership as coaching. Leaders don't want to be coached. And I've seen in few organizations where leaders say that I know it. And then you know what they do? They just go into everything opposite. So one, I've seen leaders are involved in a lot of undoing agility. There is so much of at least attempts, or at least what I call them as there's an honest attempt to try this thing. But when I see leaders are doing a lot of undoing it. So it's totally, to me, is a lot of waste of time and effort being put at the bottom when leaders try to undo agility. Or this thing worked for me for the last 25 years. Why will it not work for me? Or my style worked throughout my career. Why is it not going to work for me? So in transformation coaching, we usually call it as balance, assess, catalyze. And this is a small framework. Yeah. So okay. One of my friend Kareem, he made this 6 enablers of business agility, and I love this a lot. Okay, so leadership and management, innovation culture, organization structure, people and engagement, governance and funding, and ways of working. So these are the 6 enablers of business agility, and most of the time, you see at least majority of them are missing. For example, organization structure. So you see like a deep-rooted hierarchy. I mean, one of the organizations I've seen from the bottom, the junior most staff, all the way to the CIOs and CEOs, there are 12 intermediate layers. And then you know, the communication don't happen at all. And okay, so so tell me, find a partner and discuss what needs to change. And I can give you 2 minutes. And after that, we want to hear from some of you. Alright? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we all get stuck actually. So since we work together, I'd like to hear more from you.
What your response to all changes? Yeah, lots of people want to be. So I think one what?
Okay, yes. Okay, sorry.
So I spent quite a lot of time.
I agree that I think we were laughing over this question, right? What is to change? There's a lot of humorous reaction to that. But
Yeah.
I personally believe that human beings, basically animals, right? We already adjust to the things.
Yeah.
So we adapt to whichever situation we are born in, rich, poor, whichever school we go to, whichever college we go to. So we already adjust, right? So it's inbuilt into us. It's just that when we go into a constructed environment, we are not able to bring that agility because, because we have rules, we have specific, rigid processes. So I think what needs to change is that we need to bring that mindset that we have been inculcating since a childhood into the ways of working also. And I think the encouragement should be there from seniors to do that.
Yeah.
That's also, it's just bringing what you already have into the forefront.
Yeah.
I think that's very important.
Yeah. So what I hear is the seniors have a lot of a role to play in bringing the change.
It's more like supporting it. So
Yeah.
the thing is, the best ideas can come from anyone in the organization.
Yeah.
So there must be a framework for supporting those
Those
and even active
Yeah.
steering on those ideas.
Yeah.
I think that's very important.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. So on that note, see, one thing, with all respect to coaches, so you can do all the ICF, you can do all the awards, you can do all the certifications in the world. But the biggest challenge I see is if a coach comes into your organization and this coach don't have agile competencies, then I call it as mostly a misaligned coaching. It will go in a different direction most of the time. And the real reason why I see this many times it happened was, yes, coaches primarily focus on bringing that shift. But that shift, is that worth the shift? Is it aligned to the new agile ways of working, new organization? Is something that is questioned. So, and then over a period of time, what I learned was, I was working with in many transformation. Changing people is so hard. How many of you tried changing your wife or an husband at home? Oh, yeah. How did that go?
Master, did you try? I said yes. Because successful or not, I don't. Obviously, no.
So, and most of the time, when you try to change your wife or an husband at home, it backfires. So, when you cannot change someone at home, how come you go out and change like 100 people or 1,000 people out there? You can apply all the coaching techniques on your wife or husband and see what does it going to lead to. Yeah. So what we did, what we realized over a period of time, yes, I can do all the coaching on people. One, bringing that shift. Yes, let's say for example, only very few percentage of people, they get that shift. And majority of them, they don't want to be coached. Okay, I know everything. Okay, so assuming that you have few percentage of people who are transforming, and what bigger impact you can create with few percentage of people. So what in Scrum Lines what we say is these are the guys who are catalysts, who can transform the rest of the organization. And I've seen this, these are the guys who just change their thought process. And there are opposite influences in this organization only who can change them back. See, we spend like 2 days or in CSM, CSPO or advanced classes to transform these people. And then we want them, okay, this is your existing thought process, you got to shift to this. And then they go back into their organization within a month. Everything is done. They are back to their old ways of working. So when you have opposite influences at home or at your organization, is the training is going to make an impact. So one hack what we found out, which I borrowed it from Les, one hack what we found out was the system. We call it as systems thinking. Transform the system so that people align to the system, and that system must be aligned to agile ways of working. For example, how do you make an appraisal process as a moment of continuous feedback? And how do you avoid big bang planning? And then how do you plan smaller and learn from the mistakes and improve your plans? So that is something which worked for me to an extent. So how do you transform a system in your organization where it helps agility? Because I've seen in many organizations, you have these agile groups in the organization who comes to the teams and say that, hey, you need to be a very strong team. But you have an appraisal process out there that measures individuals. Now tell me what is happening here. Okay, so I'm totally, I've seen so many of this where there are negative influences in the organization. From one side, you are doing all the hard work of transforming people and all that. From the other side, there are systems and processes in the organizations that undo everything. And this is not going to go very far. At some point of time, people get stuck in this gang war. You have seen, right? From one side, you are applying, all the coaches applying a lot of pressure to transform. From another side, you have structures, processes, and leaders who are undoing it. It's not going to go very far. Within 1 to 2 years, I know where this is going to get to. Okay? So, any other change? One more change that I want to do? Yeah?
Willingness to change.
Willingness to change, which no one will have. See, I was, this is my favorite. Who wants to change? And they look at each other. How many of you want change in the organization? Everyone say yes. So my biggest worry is if people don't have an incentive to change, they will prefer to remain the status quo. And no matter how much you apply, it's not going to go really far. How much force you apply, it's not going to go very far. Okay, any quick, again, a path from this jungle? There's a lot of this which you can read it. Okay, any questions? Any questions that? Yes?
I want to make a point about your change. Do I need a microphone? So the question, what needs to change? So to your point around, do people really want to change? I think that there's also, there isn't enough of a burning platform to change. So the accountability to deliver value and measure that value is missing a lot of the time. So there is no, why should I change? Because,
exactly.
I'm not really being measured. But then a few years down the line, the project or the initiative gets scrapped.
Exactly. Totally.
I think from the top, there's not enough accountability.
So what are the consequences of not changing? And that is also something that I often see. Do I have an incentive to change? And what happens if I don't change? And these are the two questions everyone asks for themselves before they want to change. Thank you so much for bringing that. Any other questions? Yes.
Hi, I'm actually trying to understand the slides a bit and the points about that. So one of the things that I was trying to figure out is, in order for something to change, there always must be a cause or root cause. And the cause has to be common to all. Otherwise, the change doesn't matter or doesn't mean anything.
Awesome. So is you and your neighbor are equally motivated to change? So that's to me makes the biggest impact.
Yes, and it must be.
So let's say if your team member is not motivated, or if your team members see a low value in that change, then this incentivize people to change. Hey, we are on this and we want to shift to us. And how do you incentivize people? That's one. Where you influence them to change in a positive direction. And what is it? So they are aligned to the bigger picture as well. So what does in for an organization where, so let's say for example, if we moving from this status quo to this status quo, and if our businesses gets if we do very good business, okay, we all get more stock options, and we all get some incentives. It could be tangible or intangible. That's what is to me the answer. They must be equally motivated. So that's why develop systems within the organization where people are excited to change. And many times I've seen this. If people are not motivated to change, they just do it for the sake of doing it, or their boss might be forcing them. Yeah. So anything else? Yeah.
One more item, right? So I think if you do it one step at a time. So say if you tell someone right immediately that okay, we are going to work out the day. So big change, right? But you see, it is one small portion of the day. Say FSG story works and you include that, people get adjusted to it for a period of time.
Okay. So I have a different way. I call that as a slicing the cake. So what I did was like in one of my first failure case where I failed as a transformation coach. And what I did was, we started implementing daily Scrum for 1 month. And then after 1 month, my leaders were asking me, what is the value you got out of this 1 month of daily Scrum implementation? And what are the measures and metrics that they are improving because of this daily Scrum? So to me, I never take the process that way of working.
No, but what happens is, or you need to look at the outcome at the end of 6 months or a year. Right?
6
So,
months.
at the end of 1 year, after doing the bits and bits, and once you see that all the process slowly stepping after to Agile, then you say, okay, now we are Agile. So,
Okay.
you have done the transformation already. You don't even realizing you are part of the transformation.
So every transformation must be measured towards a business goal. Okay? Every transformation, otherwise don't do it. So what is the point of doing all this? Let's say for example, we wanted to deliver something, okay, so I call it as faster time to market. Okay, so let's say we have a business goal. Nowadays we are doing like 2 releases per year. What does it take for us to do 12 releases per year? So let's say you have a very broader business goal. Based on the business goal, you try to align your practices that can achieve the business goal. Otherwise, don't do fragmented adoptions or transformations where you just run daily scrums for 6 months. And then just get beaten up by your leaders where they say that, hey, you did daily scrums for 6 months and nothing happened for us. Because most of the time, your leaders measure everything that aligns to their KPIs.
Even each and every organization is unique, right? So we have our own set of values and so
correct. Exactly. So I try to understand. I usually have that first few meetings with leaders and say that what is that they want to achieve over it. If they have nothing and then they say that I want my organization to be agile. No, this is not going to go very far. This is not going to go very, very far. Because the problem is, what is the measure of being agile? And when you don't have that in organizations, the problems usually multiply. And many leaders often try to offset the negative influences in the organization that undo agility. So yes, you have is this kind of an effect. So from one side you are helping them to go agile, from another side you have a bunch of people who are coming and doing all the damage. And this is a gang war. This is not going to go very far. Okay, so that's why one of my favorite approach is I take a thin slice of the business unit, maybe 4 teams, 5 teams that have to dance together. And then on that, we try to implement everything, not bits and pieces on these 4-5 teams, and see if there is a natural way of they show a continuous improvement. Let's say for a quarter, and then we measure the status quo. What was it before, and what was it after, and then see if there is a real change that is happening based on the business goals. I try to align it to the business goals. For example, if someone says that I want a faster time to macula, so now I start working on, okay, let's have cross-functional teams. Let's have teams sprinting together. So these are some of the basic things that I would keep in mind. Yeah. So yes, there is a lot of knowledge out there. I've seen many agile coaches, they study too many things, and then they come back and say that, okay, my organization don't understand agile. Oh, there's no point of studying so many things to see that. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Yes.
Aside from the structure and the practices, do you also dip your hands into the technical aspects of it? So what kind of... Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So what are the different technical practices that you also help out with the organization?
My favorite technical practices are continuous integration, test automation, and swarming. SWARMING. These are my 3 practices. Yeah, these are in XP most of the time. Yeah, the people it as collective code ownership or something like that. Yeah, in collective code ownership, I believe in a lot of swarming. People swarming makes it very what I call it as reducing the throughput. Yeah, and then they ship things faster. So if someone sees that, I mean that's a good example. If someone, I was with one of the organization, and a team is struggling to integrate their own code with the previous sprint. And then this team, they implemented a scaling framework, a popular scaling framework on it. And then what happens? Now the problems became bigger. How come they integrate with the 10 other teams when they cannot integrate their own code with the previous sprint? And the kind of nuisance it created, who will fix it? Who will look at it? No. You asked us to launch something. We went through the training, you launched this, and then finally it is a big mess. So there is so much of noise in this world in the name of Agile. There is so much of noise in this world in the name of Agile. You have to filter the right ones. That's what I would say. So you cannot just take anything without an alignment to your business goals. I mean, I've seen people randomly implementing few practices, few approaches, but honestly, these are all might, influence you in a negative way rather than a positive. Yeah. All right. I think that's all what I have. Thank you so much.